Good morning, everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Abigail Long Watson. I am the co-chair of the Local Content Summit and the CEO of MBW Inc. It is truly my honor to stand before you today as we open the 2025 Local Content Summit. Welcome to this year's gathering centered around the powerful theme, collaborate, invest, build, shaping Guyana's future together. This morning, I extend a warm welcome to His Excellency, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. The Honorable Vikram Bharat, Minister of Natural Resources. Dr. Martin Clark, Director of the Local Content Secretariat. And of course, members of the Diplomatic Corps, senior members of the Ministry of Natural Resources, our sponsors, exhibitors, speakers, delegates, and members of the media. Thank you all for being here and for being a part of this conversation. Today marks the third year that MBW Inc. and Prestige Management Consultants have proudly come together to deliver this summit. Our continued partnership is proof of what is possible when Guyanese business unite with a purpose. Anita and I, two Guyanese women leading local businesses, stand as living examples of the power of collaboration, trust, and vision. So this summit today is more than just an event. It is an opportunity to share, to learn, to challenge, and to connect. We want you to fully immerse yourself in the experience, to engage with our speakers, to ask the tough questions, to seek partnerships, and to find solutions. Because shaping Guyana's future is not just a one-person task. It really is a collective mission. You know, in 2025, there is perhaps no greater strength than being a Guyanese-owned business. We are the heartbeat of this nation's growth story, and this summit is designed to give us the tools, the knowledge, and a network to thrive. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 2025 Local Content Summit. May this experience today inspire you, challenge you, and push you and your companies towards even greater success. Now, join me as we welcome my partner in this journey, Ms. Anita Raprasad, to give the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. I'll stand and establish protocols. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you all for taking time to be here with us for our third year. And I have to say, you might be wondering, well, what new are they going to tell us this year? In fact, I was asked this question by a reporter. Guyana has become the land of summits and conferences. This is your third year. What are you going to tell them? And it was a question I really had to ask myself. But it's an easy question to answer, because if I focus on what you need to hear, then I'll know what to speak about. So in curating this program, I want you to understand that it was done so with you in mind. Local content may be one legislation, but every year it evolves. As the economy evolves, as the landscape of business evolves, as the opportunities that are possible evolve, so too will the way that the legislation can be navigated and applied evolve, and that's the case this year. So I can promise you that today, some of you may have concerns. You'll have an opportunity to raise them, because every speaker will take questions from you. I want to run you through briefly our program. You will hear first from His Excellency, the President, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, followed by the Honourable Minister of Natural Resources, Vikram Bharat. We will have the Director and a representative from the local content secretariat in Dr. Martin Pratap and Mr. Michael Monroe. We will have Mr. Bobby Gasai, who is the Senior Petroleum Coordinator within the ministry. And these presentations are simply to update you on the way forward. Guyana is not known for always having information at your fingertips, especially put into the context that everyone needs. We have lots of information, but to put it into usable context sometimes seems to be very difficult. So we thought it best to give you the broad picture so that you are able to put it into relatable context. We have 3 panels today, and I believe that these 3 panels adequately address what are the topical issues in this market today. When I was curating the summit, it dawned on me that local content has what I have coined as the stakeholder quadrant. On the one hand, you have the policymakers and the regulators, so they are here, the government. On the other hand, you have the industry that it was created to regulate, the oil and gas sector, they are here. You have the vendors, the suppliers, and the contractors who need to operate within the sector, and so they need to understand how to play by the rules. They are here. And then you have the citizens, the people who are interested, those who are thinking of getting into the game, and they are here. And in the middle of it all, you have the organizations who need to have the interests of business at heart. And so they are definitely going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly, and they are here. So I dare say that today you're going to have a little bit of everything that you need to have a deeper, clearer, and more actionable understanding of the local content, how it relates to you, your business, and even the direction that you want to head. And if you can stick around for later, there's some fun happening at 5 if you finish on time. But for those of you who are who were here last year, raise your hands. Just a couple, so you don't remember what happened, all right. Let's just say this time we're starting at a really good time. So we're winning. All right, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker. He has asked me not to read his entire bio, yet his office sent it to me. So I will read some of the things that you most need to know, because everyone may not know this about him. I feel it's necessary to let you know just how smart he is. His education started, like everyone else, in elementary school. But his academic prowess is highlighted by a range of qualifications, including a doctorate in urban and regional planning from the University of the West Indies, a Master of Arts degree in manpower planning, a postgraduate diploma in international business, a postgraduate certificate in finance from Anglia-Ruskin University, an LLM degree in international commercial law as the economy from the University of Salford, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in business management from the University of Sunderland. He was also a member of the Canadian Institute of Management. So I can promise you that today, some of you may have concerns. You'll have an opportunity to raise them because every speaker will take questions from you. I want to run you through briefly our program. You will hear first from His Excellency, the President, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, followed by the Honorable Minister of Natural Resources, Vikram Bharat. We will have the Director and a representative from the Local Content Secretariat in Dr. Martin Pratap and Mr. Michael Monroe. We will have Mr. Bobby Gasai, who is the Senior Petroleum Coordinator within the ministry. And these presentations are simply to update you on the way forward. Guyana is not known for always having information at your fingertips, especially put into the context that everyone, while at the same time promoting their right to have a life. He, I think, best envisions what the vision for the future ought to look like. And I know he has very strong views on the direction of local content. And so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please stand and help me welcome His Excellency.
Thank you very much for those very kind words. Please have your seats. I want to say that we have made tremendous improvement from last year. I think a message is sent to me here that you don't want too long speeches. Nevertheless, I would indulge your patience for some time this morning. And I indulge your patience because there is a new conversation that we must have in the room. Now that we have seen all the successes in local content and what it has done for our country, our private sector, local investors, and importantly for women-owned business, and I want to give a huge applause to all the women-owned businesses. To see women by design are more structured in their approach, more disciplined in their approach, and more sensible, basically, in their approach to life and to doing things. And as a result of that, the energy sector requires a lot of structure, a lot of careful planning, and better decision-making capability. So there is no second guessing why this new sector has really opened up so many opportunities, especially for women-owned businesses. You know, there were many naysayers when we first approached local content in the way in which we approached it. But when we see in 2024, 1,100 Guyanese companies successfully added to the local content register, that tells you something. It tells you that there is success, there is appetite, there is success, there is appetite, and that was facilitated through a legislative and a regulatory arrangement. I'll come to that a bit later. When you look at the value creation as a result of the local content legislation, and I'm not going to only speak about the monetary valuation. I'm going to speak about the 100% Guyanese-owned companies providing custom brokerage service and medical services now in the sector. And I think we need to applaud that also. Because when we provide medical services in the oil and gas sector, we are upping our game, we are improving our efficiency, we are upskilling our people, and we are building capacity to provide services at a higher level, which also will benefit the national good and the national strategy in terms of healthcare. So these things, they have wide-ranging impact beyond the sector in which the investment is made. We have had tremendous value created also in upskilling, and hundreds of persons would have benefited from upskilling in the sector and in our economy. And all of these are things that are important for the creation of a new wave of wealth for Guyana, the new opportunities for Guyana. Human capability, building human capability, investing in human capital is an imperative for us to achieve the next wave of development and wealth creation. Very soon we'll be concluding arrangements on the establishment of a world-class innovation center in Guyana, because I believe that we have to be competitive in a way that is different, in a way in which we will lead the next generation of business opportunity in this region, in the CELAC region, in which we will lead the next generation of human invention and human capacity and human output here in the CELAC region. And to do that, we have to associate with the best, we have to build partnership with the best, and I want to say this. This room today is not only about Guyanese companies. This room today is about the success of partnership. And partnership are there to build trust. You and many international companies will have successfully partnered with local companies, building that trust, transferring technology, and winning together. That is what Guyana wants to do. Win together with our friends and our partners in the private sector and in the public sector. So before I go into the local content remarks, let me just give you a brief overlay as to what would be this next phase of wealth creation in our country and how we're going to approach this next phase of wealth creation. First of all, the next phase of wealth creation requires us, as I said 3 days ago, to convert a 5-year electoral term into 10 years, not by tampering with the Constitution, but by working 24 hours, because we need 10 years to get ahead of the game, and we'll do it in 5 years by working 24 hours. So the private sector, the public sector, everyone who's going to embark on this journey, we will have to find a way in which we make every second in the day count, and we're going to do it. Now, how do we create wealth and build prosperity? What is this new wave of policies that we'll pursue? What are some of the things that we are going to look at as we seek to empower businesses, as we seek to create opportunities for businesses, and as we seek to solve some of the policy-oriented or structural issues surrounding the development of small businesses and expansion of local businesses? And that is important, creating the value within the entire ecosystem and making that valuation and approach to that valuation very clear. Clarity in the vision is very important. So one of the first things that we have to approach, because everything will be built on financial literacy. First, let me step back and start from where we want this to be. We want every single Guyanese, regardless of how much income you have, to have an opportunity to be in the wealth creation frame and the prosperity frame of our country. So on one hand, the government will be supporting the building out of capacity, human and financial capacity, to reduce that inequality and disparity. But we want that capacity to be directed into something that creates wealth at the individual level, at the family level, at the community level, and at the national level. So to do that, we have to match the incentive or the wealth investment program, whether it's in grant or any other investment program, with financial literacy. So we will have a massive deployment of community-based initiatives dealing with financial literacy, educating every segment of the population on financial literacy, how to invest, how to save, how to budget, how to make some financial decisions. So that will be an important bedrock on which this strategy of wealth creation and prosperity will be built on. The second has to do with incentivizing regulations. So regulations are there to support investment, support development in a rules-based environment. But regulations can also be incentivized to support a particular outcome. So we're going to be looking at how we can incentivize regulations to further support local businesses, to further empower local business, to further engineer the building of partnership in new areas. So that will be an important aspect to support financial literacy. Having a regulatory environment that's, I don't want to say that it's skewed, but that is incentivized to support local businesses and the local private sector. The second aspect of that, now that you have a regulation that brings with it incentives for companies to invest with local businesses, and businesses themselves having incentives within the regulations and the rule-based system, and the financial literacy is there, then what is the third aspect? And when I talk about incentivizing, it's also allowing your employees to be a part of what you're doing and not to be employees receiving salaries. So that is what I mean. That is the extent to which we're going. Because growing wealth and building wealth and creating prosperity is not only about your businesses winning, it's about your employees winning with your businesses and creating an enabling environment in which your employees must win with you so they will deliver better every single day. So, regulations, then the financial system. We are going to have a complete overhaul of our financial system. We have to modernize the financial architecture. We have to have a payment system, a payment platform by the end of this year that you can make payment anywhere across the country by sitting in your home. All of that will come on stream. So the modernization of the financial sector, but importantly, how do we ensure also incentivize the financial sector to deploy capital? To deploy capital to support innovation, to support initiative, to support new opportunities, to support the direction of the new economy. Because if you have to mold capital into the particular sector, you have to create an enabling environment for the risk around that capital to be reduced. So in modernizing the financial system, incentivizing the financial system is an important part of doing that. And we have capacity. We now have capacity in the system. Yes, demand for foreign currency went up because the economy is expanding, things are booming, but what you saw, we had a capacity to release $100 million in the system yesterday, to clear the system, right? So the incentivizing the financial system is another aspect of that foundational work in the new wave. Then, importantly, in-country value. How do we create in-country value? In-country value is about redirecting spending and investment in the local economy. So how do we create the opportunities for businesses, individuals, to redirect their spending back in the local economy? To redirect their spending to invest in the economy, so that there will be no motivation for any company to establish shell companies or headquarters outside of that. The system must create inbuilt incentives, inbuilt opportunities through which you can get a higher return by reinvesting your capital, reinvesting your resources in the local economy. And how do we leverage that reinvestment to bring foreign direct investment, matching the local investment, and creating the opportunities? I'm going to tell you a bit about that. So in-country value creation, that's another plan of the strategy that we're going to pursue in the next 5 years. Now, to do all of this, it requires having the opportunity available. So how are we going to do this? First, co-investment. The large and medium-sized opportunities in gas, first gas, and then the second gas project, we want Guyanese to be investors. Guyanese here, Guyanese in the diaspora, and then regional citizens to be investors. Investing with international partners. So the co-investment is about local, maximizing the local capacity, matching that with international capacity, and then the government also, reducing the risk of those investments by also being part of the co-investment framework. And if you look at the areas in which we want to provide leadership, that is energy security, value creation in industry and manufacturing, food security, which requires, of course, fertilizer and all of these things. These are projects we're going to build to create the opportunities for co-investment. So that's one of the strategies that you'll be utilizing. Mitigating risk by co-investment and sharing risk between the local financial system, international partners, and international financial system. And there are going to be a series of opportunities for co-investment. For example, we have the fertilizer plant, the agrochemical industry, the petrochemical industries. All of these value creation opportunities is where we're going to give the Guyanese regional citizens and international investors an opportunity to work with the government on catalyzing this opportunity to enable wealth creation, to enable prosperity, to enable involvement of every segment of the population in this development and transformative trajectory. So co-investment is a major part of this strategy. The next aspect of the strategy is the creation of a development fund, an SME development fund. You know, 3 years ago, I challenged the Georgetown Chambers and the private sector to come up with $1 billion and we'll match you. Because they were complaining that, oh, we have capital, but we need more money for small businesses. We didn't get off the ground, but we're going to do this now by the establishment of a development fund to particularly focus on SMEs, but a development fund that prioritizes different sectors and bring together not only access to finances, but using the finances from the development fund to catalyze more financing from the financial system. So it's not about you receiving a grant type of loan and you go off and so on. It's about how you develop a project that marries a development fund with the commercial banks so that you reduce risk and also you unlock additional fund for your project. So it's an unlocking mechanism. So it's a mechanism that can allow a good idea from a small business to become a medium-sized idea, because this access to this fund unlocks opportunity for much larger capital injection. So the development fund co-investment. Then how do we create investment vehicles, tools, and instruments? This is the next phase. You know, very soon, for example, we are announcing one section of the commencement of the second phase of Silica City, which will target diaspora. And all those persons in diaspora who want to own a condo, own a home, or invest in some facility here would have the first right to invest through the second phase of Silica City that will be announced very shortly. So how do we create instruments? Instruments that will give higher returns, instruments and tools and investment vehicle that would allow your capital to work for you, that the government can back, that just like international agency would ask for a sovereign guarantee, is creating some risk mitigating factor from the government around the tools and instruments so that the ordinary investor or the smallest investor can have confidence in the instrument or the vehicle or the tools through which they're investing their resources. So that's another plan that we are working on, creating that investment vehicle, the tools and instrument, not only for Guyanese, but in the first phase for Guyanese and diaspora, and then also for regional citizens, because we want regional citizens to be able to be prosperous from what we're doing here also. Then the other aspect of this value chain is what we call energy support. As we become energy rich, we don't want to create models that are unsustainable, models in which you will build your business case on energy that is below market value or subsidized, and then when things change in the future, your entire business model collapses. We have seen how that worked globally. But what we want to do as an energy-rich country, as an emerging energy-rich country, is to provide energy support. Energy support in a targeted way, manufacturing, agro-processing, certain industrial development. So this is another area in which we are going to develop this strategy around wealth creation and building prosperity. So in this new way, now, when we outlined this strategy recently, people say it's a lot of work. Yes, it's ambitious, it is a lot of work, it is creative, but that is what is required to take us to the next level. And that is what is required, frankly speaking, in a small society like us, like ours here. We have to be nimble. We have to be nimble, and that's one of the great advantages. You know, when I was in Silicon Valley a few days ago, I said to them, you know what is the beauty about a small country now? Because we have to take this population up, and we have to have at least 3 million people passing through the economy by 2030 because of the speed at which services are being built out here. But there's one great advantage of having, not living, passing through. So there's one great advantage of being small at this point. I said to them, what you consider your pilot is deploying the technology at national scale for us. Because a pilot for them sometimes is 2 million people, 1.5. A pilot in the innovative world can be deploying a technology at national scale. Just imagine that. And that is why we have to pursue an economy that is built on innovation. And we cannot start from the bottom. We have to start from something that is there. So I'm in discussion now with some leading innovators on how they can bring their innovation that is in testing phase, some in healthcare is in human trials right now, and to bring that innovation and house it in Guyana. That is what India did. That is how India leapfrogged their technological sector. Not by starting from the scratch, creating the enabling environment. And what I want us to have here is a NASA, Berkeley, Guyana Institute of Innovation instead of IIST. So we're going to look at converting IIST into a global innovation center with partners like Berkeley and NASA, so that when they come here, we're going to target innovators that are already in with something. So we have to have scouters. Now when these innovators come here, they may say that this technology requires an investment of X dollars. It then allows the private sector in Guyana to be something futuristic. It allows the governments in the region to invest in something futuristic, something that is going to be the next SpaceX and Google X. And that is the space we have to be in if we want to play ahead of the game, and if we want to ensure that we are building an economy and a society that is not catching up, but is ready to be competitive. And this is what the revenues from oil and gas allow us to do: to be bold, to be innovative, to be ambitious. It doesn't allow us the opportunity to share out money like, every day Christmas. It allows you the space to be innovative and bold and strategic and ambitious in your thinking. And creating this boldness and ambition in your thinking that will generate sustainable and resilient opportunities and wealth. And that is the space. That is where my head is. That is where the head of this government is. That is a discourse. That is where we are in now. A space with less noise. You notice that I was very quiet for 3 days because I was in a space of learning, a space of intelligence when I was there in Silicon Valley. No noise, just knowledge. And that is the space we need to create in this country and in the world. But I'll speak about this country for a moment, where we lock out the noise, the useless noise sometimes. Lock that noise out and lock ourselves in a space that is ambitious, that is bold, that is creative, that challenges ourselves, challenges our company. Not to be buyers and sellers, to be innovative. And I don't know how to do it any other way. The only way I can do it is being direct. We will do it. I assure you we will do it. But I want us to do it together. I want us to do it in partnership. I want us to do it in a way in which Guyana wins, the region wins, our international partner wins. That is how we want to do it. When we are discussing with the EU the support for the biomedical space, it is not about the EU coming to invest in that space. It's about the EU cutting down the lead time by almost 10 years, by bringing those who have done it already to help us to have the regulations, the laws, the ecosystem to support it, and then having you getting the opportunity to invest in the space. Having the region the opportunity to invest in the space. These are the things that we should be worrying about. These are the things that should be occupying our thinking space. So, one of the things I admire about this room last year and this year is the youthfulness of the room, one. And secondly, the composition of the room. You can actually see the partnerships that are building and were built. And also, importantly, the strong women-driven ambition. And that, I think, is critical. It's critical in building out this new wave of development in our country. When you look at the opportunities that we can create for Guyana, that you can create for yourselves, it also requires you thinking outside of the box, and it requires you embracing newer opportunities. You know, you have international names that with deep Guyanese root, like Rihanna, for example. And you have Banks and maybe DDL in the room. How are we not able to capitalize those branding opportunities to position ourselves globally? It requires investment. It requires building out a partnership model. You have the best products. And DDL. And all the others. That's the big problem with Guyana. They look at internal competition and external opportunities. I just spoke to Banks about a major global opportunity, and his biggest worry is about is him or DDL. I said together, partnership. So you have you see that's the problem with coming up from the crowd, you know. One of the things that you have is leveraging branding. Both companies have one of the finest international products. The finest, I would say. I'm not a consumer, but the finest. And how do you leverage it? That is the next level. That is the next level. Just imagine Riri on your brand. The market opportunity it creates. But we have to now come together. How do we come together and raise capital to develop a tourism facility by reducing the risk of an international brand and having the power of that international brand to back you. These are the things that will be the low-hanging fruits in 2-3 years. You can get ahead of it by making it your low-hanging fruit today. Whilst we are busy individually thinking about whether golf course would work in Guyana, there is 2 major players in the industry who are designing it for Guyana. So I say these things to demonstrate to you that the opportunities are there. When we announced Silica City, and look at Silica City for example. Silica City was first announced when I was Minister of Housing. So it feels like decades ago. But today, the realization is coming. And from an idea that was planted decades ago, it has reached the Innovation Forum of Berkeley and NASA. Just think about this for a moment. It has reached the doorstep of every sophisticated international investor and technology provider. Just think about that for a moment. So although you are looking at local opportunities, we should not be looking at business in a short term. We should be looking at how our investment today is going to create a better living for us tomorrow, but greater possibilities 10 years from now. That is a model that will be successful. Greater opportunities 10 years from now. And that model requires a little bit more structure toward business development mode. And that is, I think, the space that we have to focus on. That medium to long-term trajectory. So, I begin by welcoming the timely and important decision to convene yet again this Low Content Summit. Yes, I am now beginning what I have to say actually. I was just tinkering around the borders. This summit, as we all know, represents a strategic and purposeful platform. It allows us to reflect on how far we have come, to assess the challenges we must overcome, and to forge new pathways for deeper partnerships and more inclusive growth. And I think one of the things that the forum should seek to do is at the end of it to come up with 2 or 3 projects. Build consortium around 2 or 3 projects, 2 or 3 new initiatives that you can pursue, that are viable, and that we can allow to be product of the conference. The summit provides a critical space to highlight the tangible gains that have been achieved since the passage of the Local Content Act. It allows us to evaluate the progress made in ensuring local participation in the oil and gas sector. Importantly, it also allows us to confront the continuing attempts, both subtle and overt, to circumvent the rules that were established with a singular objective of empowering Guyanese citizens and businesses. Equally vital, this gathering opens the door for greater collaboration between local companies and foreign firms, and for creating more meaningful and sustainable partnerships. These partnerships are not just about transactional engagement. They must be about transformation. Transformation of local capability, of opportunity, and of the architecture of national wealth. The data attests to the momentum we have built. As of the end of 2024, as I said, a total of 1,100 local companies were participating in the local oil and gas sector. The value of this participation is not token, it is substantive. Since the passage of the Local Content Act, local companies have benefited from over US $1.5 billion in contracts and procurement. It is your accomplishment to celebrate, so you decide how you want to celebrate it. The participation has also been inclusive. We committed to small and medium-scale enterprises and women-owned businesses across various subsectors. During the second half of 2024, 54 women-owned businesses were registered. These gains were not accidental. They were the direct result of a legislative framework that insisted rightly that Guyanese must not stand on the sidelines of their own development. Of course, as with many bold moves, there were criticisms. Some said the Local Content Act was too protectionist. Others warned that it would scare away foreign investment or diminish efficiency. Let me take a moment to address some of these directly. When a new growth pole emerges, it is critical for any government to take affirmative steps to enhance local participation, so as to ensure that the benefits of development are equitably shared and sustainably anchored within the country. Without deliberate efforts to involve local businesses, workers, and institutions, there is a risk that opportunities will bypass the very people and regions most in need of economic upliftment. Countries with new and emerging industries have every right, and indeed an obligation, to put in place policies that ensure that their citizens and businesses are not left behind. Local content legislation is not a barrier to development, it is a bridge to shared prosperity. We are proud of what we have achieved so far, but we are not naive. We know that challenges remain. There are still attempts to exploit legal loopholes. There are still some who seek to undermine the spirit, if not the letter, of the Local Content Act. We will not stand idly by. We will continue to strengthen enforcement and to close any gaps that are being abused. It is also gross misrepresentation to suggest that local content legislation is protectionist. It is not. Local content is an instrument of national development. It is not about shielding inefficiency or denying competition. Rather, it is about ensuring that the playing field is not just level, but also accessible. It is about giving local firms a fair chance, not a free ride, to participate in a new industry and to build the capacity and capability necessary to compete and thrive. There is fundamental distinction between local content provision and imposition of tariffs. Tariffs are often deployed to restrict import and to protect domestic producers from foreign competition. Local content laws, on the other hand, are about inclusion, participation, and long-term national development. The two must work together. For us to have fairness in the international system, for us to have, to ensure that we mitigate against dumping. And these are all international issues and challenges that a trade environment is faced with. How do we ensure that the mechanism is not only about pricing, but about quality? How do we mitigate against dumping, substandard abuse of the existing trade system? These are all matters that the global community is faced with. Continuous discussion around these issues. And we have to be innovative, we have to be open, we have to be frank, we have to be deliberate, and also we have to understand that the world in which we operate is not a silo. It requires strong, relentless partnership. And that is what Guyana is about. Strong, relentless partnership. The day we see ourselves as an island unto ourselves, is the day we're going to make an important mistake about our own future. In building out this country, we are not building to be superior to anyone. We are building to be the best we can be for our people and our country. That is why our education system, our healthcare system, is to provide the best possible service to our citizens, but also to our regional friends. So, we are not shielding Ghana's petroleum sector from foreign investment. Not at all. We're not shielding the sector from foreign investment. Far from it. We are actively courting it. Ghana has never been more open to the world, to capital, and to partnership. But our openness is not equivalent to marginalization of local businesses. We will not allow our private sector, our people, to be mere spectators in their own economy. We will not permit the benefits of oil and gas to bypass our workers, our businesses, and our communities. And I want the businesses here to also listen to this message that we are speaking to ourselves about. You must allow your employees to be part of this growth story. You must allow your employees to be a part of the success stories of your businesses and your enterprise. Just as you want to be a success story of the country. We are in this together. We are creating wealth together. We are building prosperity together. You know, 5 years ago, I said we want people to retire in dignity. And today, I give the example of an 8th grade head teacher retiring. Today, I'm not talking about who will retire 5 years from now. They'll have far better circumstances. They retire today at 55 with a pension and a gratuity that matches their working life. By the time they get to 60 and they add the NIS, National Insurance Pension, to their employment pension at today's rate, they'll be having a pension superior to the salary they were working. And when they add their old age pension at 65, it's a pension far superior to when they were in their last employment. That is what we mean when we say retirement and dignity. When you look at the salary scale adjustment and the increases that we have given to different categories of public servant, it is enormous. A constable who came on in 2020 versus a constable who comes on today. It's almost 65-70% more. Incentivizing the system. We had a situation where a constable would spend 25 years in service on blemished record and retire as a constable. We are changing this. Once you have years of service with unblemished record, you have your promotion. So once you serve more than 22 years, now with this policy, in the Ghana Police Force with an unblemished record, you will retire with benefit no less than what an inspector retires at. That is retirement in dignity. That is incentivizing service. That is incentivizing service. And just as we are doing it at the national level, you have to do it in your company. You have to find a formula that wins for you and work for you. How are you going to incentivize productivity? How are you going to incentivize innovation in your company itself? Let the employees in your company come up with the next wave of innovation to make your business better and give them 20% share if the innovation works. That is how you're going to create and enable thinking in your company. Give your management a challenge. Come up with better ways to do business, to improve our efficiency and profitability, and the difference from where we are and what you have what the company would have gained from your ideas, you get 20% of it. You will see what happens in your company. There'll be a race for innovation. There'll be a race to efficiency. There'll be a race to idea development. These are the opportunities even within your own companies. You want thinking environment. Your company must be a think box, not a organizational chart. Those days are gone. The company must be able to reinvent itself. And who better to help you reinvent yourself than the people who are in the operations every day? Of course, that requires building trust and enabling trust. But that is a topic for another day. Countries with new and emerging industries, as I said, have every right and an obligation to do exactly what we are doing. So I don't want to keep you further. There's at least 20 pages of notes here. But I will stop here and allow you to go to your productive work in this forum. I just want to wish all of you a successful forum, great networking, building of partnership, and success in all that you do. And may God bless you eternally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to know, on the program it said 20 minutes. I suppose if we timed how much time he actually spent on local content, things would be that. But he's a politician, what do you expect? But I say that not in a derogatory way, but his job as a president is to have a vision. What would we be here to discuss if there was no vision to frame it around? And I was taking some notes as he was speaking, and I thought to myself, everything that he said is in this year's theme. That is exactly his call to action. Collaborate, invest, build. Let's shape Guyana's future together. There were 4 things that I took away that I believe ought to be repeated. And I think it speaks to the difference between a limited mindset and a growth mindset. You see, many people think that success has to work like this. For me to win, you have to lose. And for me to succeed, you have to fail. That is a terrible mindset to have. You will never go anywhere. Because if you want to go far, you have to go together. If you want to go fast, you'll go alone. He said, focus on transformation, not transaction. I think that's critical. It's not just about what we're doing today, the day in, day out, but where do we want to go in the future? Where do we see these actions taking us? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. We're building legacies. Because that's how a lot of businesses fail. They focus only on what is happening today and in their own little neck of the woods. You must think big picture. And you must think how this will be applicable, especially with the rate of change in the global economy 10 years down the line. I think that's what Dr. Ali was alluding to. I loved that he said, see local content as a bridge, not a barrier. I know many people think it's a barrier. But perspective is important. I think what you focus on is what you will find. And if you look for the bad things, guess what's going to show up? The bad things. But I believe if you focus on it being a bridge, you will find solutions. There are ways to do everything if you want to find them. And if it were a barrier, I highly doubt there would be all of these collaborations, all of these partnerships. And every day I am pretty sure you have no less than 20 people wanting to meet you, wanting to meet the LCS, wanting to meet the MNR. So I think it's proof that it works. I love that you said it's not about a fair chance. It's not about a free ride, it's a fair chance. I think it's a call to action to the local businesses. we have to get out of the entitlement mentality. Yes, it's created for your benefit, but you have to participate in making sure that you are producing quality capacity that gives you the right to benefit from what was intended. And finally, he said, it's an instrument of national development. I believe that's the whole reason they took it to Parliament. I believe that's the whole reason the legislation was enacted, and that's the way we have to view it. We must all begin with the end in mind. If you stay focused on what you're working towards, you will never get lost. But if you stop to focus on things that will distract you from that outcome, well, it's just going to take you longer to get there. So I think that the President has adequately summarized his vision, and I think he has let us all know, and I mean each of us, where we have a role to play in it. They have diplomatic representation here, government representation here, foreign investors here, local businesses. Everybody in this room needs to play their part. Mr. President, I want to thank you for your insightful words. Will you be staying with us? You didn't have to do me like that. So, as is customary, we will allow for, but he already talked long, so you can't take long. We will allow 15 minutes. It is 10:36. 15 minutes from now, we will reconvene. So we will allow for the departure of the President. I know some of you want to greet him along the way. And if you can use this opportunity to stop by for your coffee or tea and come back in this room 15 minutes from now, with or without you, we're going to start. Thank you all.